everyone. It's another episode of Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash. I see a bunch of folks have loaded in already. Hi, Wild Rose Mage, TK, some new folks, a beauty and a geek. Hi. You can hear our lovely voices now, hopefully. If this is your first time tuning into DM's Guild Design Dash, welcome. Dungeon Masters Guild is a platform where you can go find licensed 5th edition creations from all sorts of creators in the community, and you can also publish your own creations and use the Forgotten Realms and Ravnica and Eberron and all sorts of things from wizards that D&D creators normally cannot use. Design Dash is where we take some of our top selling authors from the guild and make them go literally insane. We give them 15 minutes, a surprise, silly design challenge, and they design live on stream right in front of your very eyes, and then we go through and we chit chat. We like to put together a rubric with the chat that does not matter. And everyone is a winner, except that after the episode, you can go to @DMS_guild and actually vote for one of your favorite designers to come back next time. But let's go around and introduce the rest of the folks. Oh, I'm Lisa. I'm a community manager for DM's Guild. Yeah. And my co-host today, hello. My co-host today is not our usual Matt McElroy from One Bookshelf. It is James Introcaso. James, who are you? How'd you get in here?
Who let him in?
Well, I got in here because I donated a ton of money to this program. I'm an unofficial producer, and I am James Introcaso. I'm a game designer. I'm one of the Dungeon Masters Guild adepts. I am the host of the Tabletop Babble podcast. I co-own Don't Split the Podcast Network. I am the writer of World Builder blog. But most importantly today, Lisa, I am the Mary Berry to your Paul Hollywood, the Mel to your Sue.
Oh, we're doing old school.
Yeah, the Hoda to your Kathy Lee. Listen, I don't watch that. I don't watch that Channel 4 Great British Bake Off, okay? I'm BBC or nothing, all right? So yes, today I am super excited to be here with you on this amazing program that you've created. So thank you for having me on.
Yay! I'm so glad you've joined us. I see in chat that Wild Rose Mage says, @Merciful DM is way too nice to be Paul Hollywood, which
Agreed.
I think makes you Paul Hollywood, and I don't know how you feel about that.
I don't feel great about it, but
okay, which is fine because you just called me Paul Hollywood, so now I know how to feel about that. Anyway, we've got 3 lovely contestants with us. Their names you might recognize from Dungeon Masters Guild, or maybe the covers that you saw during our Starting Soon. But I'll let them go through and introduce themselves. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Markram. You might see me down in the chat as Angry Nerd Girl, or on Twitter as Miss_Just03. I write for Uncaged Anthology. I'm in volumes 1 and 4. I write to Boxy subclasses, sometimes with Kat Evans and David Markiewski. I do a lot of stuff with cute animals and like death. So recently, this last week, I just released an adventure called A Day with the Fae. So if you like rust monsters, displacer kittens, and, being held hostage by a bunch of fae, check that out. It's on DM's Guild.
That's so cute. Displacer kittens. I love it. So Jessica, what would you say about your design style that our viewers watching today could probably expect from you?
I mean, mostly cats. Probably cats or like death.
All right, cool. It's like, Lisa, were you even listening?
Right.
There are 2 things on the list. It's a short list.
I try and do other things, but they usually end up being involved in some way.
You know what? So you've got things you like and you know it, and you've got like this niche corner of the design market.
I usually end up involving a baby animal in some way. So if you wanted a more conflict, check out Grandmother Crookbossom's book of hags and get your very own.
Nice.
Our next contestant up is Matthew Gravlin. Matthew, welcome. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm Matthew Gavilan. You can find me online most places as Mr. Matthew. I'm in the chat here as Mr. Matthew Plays because I couldn't have it on Twitch. I have been putting stuff up in the DMs Guild for, gosh, a little over 2 years now, maybe?
Nice.
And you probably know me either from my series of how-to guides on creating subclasses, and I was also one of the primary writers for Humblewood, which had a wildly successful Kickstarter recently. So thank you to everybody in chat who might have been a part of that.
All right. So Matthew, tell me, what did you do, if anything, to prepare for the dangers of the DMs Guild Design Dash Arena?
I think I actively did nothing because I didn't want to stress out about it. I love doing these things, probably because this 15-minute time frame is so stressful, but that's kind of like the fun part of it, is to see what happens in that 15 minutes. But like the 48 hours leading up to that 15 minutes are pretty nerve-wracking. So
oh no.
Just been trying to go about daily life and come into this fresh. Also wanted to see what like kind of a blank slate would do. If I didn't prepare at all, if I didn't think about it and I just came in, got a prompt and started writing, what would happen?
All right. Survive. That is a valid preparation technique.
That's right.
And our last contestant is definitely a familiar face if you're a Design Dash viewer. It is our champion, JB, or Drop the Die. Everyone voted for him to come back for episode 3, so welcome back.
Hi, thanks for having me.
For folks who didn't watch the last episode, who are you?
First, I'm going to call. Now I'm going to tell you.
Thank you for the mute.
I am JB. I am at Drop the Die on Twitter. I am a best-selling DMs Guild author, hoping one day to get that coveted adept title. Recently, I have released Taverns, Inns, and Taprooms, Taverns, Inns, and Taprooms in Hell, and I was part of the Behold Liar's Night, a collection of Halloween spoopy adventures that's just released on the DMs Guild, and we hit silver bestseller, I think, either yesterday or the day before. So we're unlocking more stuff going forward for that. So it's a good time to buy if you want in on some spoopy Halloween stuff.
Yeah, that one's really fun. For October, every new bestseller medal that they hit, they're adding more content. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it on D&D Community last Friday, but all of the adventures have these really crazy random tables in them, and I'm just in it for more random tables, honestly. So I'd love to see more of those. But all right, GB, what advice do you have for your competition today?
Bookend what you're doing. Start the front, start the end, and then just fill up the middle like as you can. Because if you're missing something in the middle, you can pretend like you skipped it on purpose. But if you're missing the end like I did last time, it's a big glaring show that you're too slow. So beginning and end.
He still made it.
Exactly.
It's a complete fluke. I didn't even vote for me. But thank you everyone who did.
This sounds like some planted sabotage, actually, that's going on here. He's like, I know how to win. No end. No end. So if I tell them to write the end first, I'm guaranteed to win again. That's what I hear going on.
They stick around
right there,
for volume 2, right? Yeah. I guess that works.
So James, as a guild adept who has never been in the Design Dash arena, what is a piece of advice you would give to designers?
So the big thing I would say is you've got 15 minutes. Write what you like. If there's something that you really think you're good at, or if you love making random tables and you can whip them out real fast, go for that. You know what I mean? Like, think about what the challenge is and see how quickly you can incorporate the things you are good at writing into that.
Excellent. So no one, even James, even my cat Clara here, knows what this challenge is. This Design Dash is going to be a little bit different. We are shaking things up. Because we are shaking things up, you all are getting an extra 5 precious minutes. Whoa. This challenge is a 20-minute challenge. And I think once you hear it, the 2 guests who are invited are going to understand why they were invited for this particular episode. JB, you just kind of got voted back. I'm sorry. The theme today is trick-or-treaters, but a subclass. You have 20 minutes to determine the best subclass for trick-or-treaters to be and write as much of a subclass as you can. And we'll chat with you about your decisions for that subclass and what you think that subclass sort of brings to D&D and the actual features that you write and create. I see everyone's brains already working. So James, if you would join me in this, get ready.
Get set.
Design.
Bake. Oh.
All right, so it is 11:10. So 11:11. We'll call time at 11:31.
Okay.
Lisa,
Lisa, I have to say, this is devious. You truly have proven yourself worthy of the Paul Hollywood name. 20 minutes for a subclass is like, that is a competition that I am dying to see. So I'm very excited for
oh
this.
my goodness, you are just trying to not be Paul Hollywood. I know what you're up to.
Correct.
Yeah. As we chit chat, I will put up on the screen some of the windows that folks are taking notes in, so we can spy on them. And James, you're welcome to open things up if you have the link to the drive to kind of peek at things as well. But I guess before we go into that, I'd love to chat about a little bit of Dungeon Masters Guild news. The first thing is I picked Trick or Treat because Dungeon Masters Guild is celebrating Halloween. So James, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but starting last year, we joined Drive Thru RPG's really fun Halloween promotion called Trick or Treat. Where there are tiny little ghosts and witches' hats and pumpkins hidden all over our site. And if you find them, viewers, and you click on them, it'll just add a free D&D adventure or subclass or something to your cart. So you can get yourself some free D&D stuff. Cauldron and Tower, or if it's not Cauldron and Tower, it's John Boltino, the half of Cauldron and Tower, wrote an adventure and is pre-releasing it only as a trick-or-treat. So you can get it for free ahead of time. Super fun.
That's really cool, and it appeals to the gamer in me, right? Like, not only does it go with the trick-or-treat theme, but it's also like, I now want to scour all of the drive-through sites to see if I can find all of these witch hats, ghosts, and pumpkins.
Yeah. For those who are watching, I will even give you a hint. If you check out our Halloween sale, that's a really good place to start on your trick-or-treat.
Nice.
You'll find a little Halloween friend. The other new thing on Dungeon Masters Guild right now is that we've just released a new format that our team helped develop and worked with some creators to convert their products to, called a phone PDF. So normally when you're reading PDFs on your phone, I mean, it's already helpful to have it on your phone, very portable, but then you've got to pinch the page and zoom in, and
then you're scrolling side to side and up and down to read. It's
not ideal. So we developed guidance for creating a phone PDF where the pages are sized for your phone, fonts and text and everything are meant for that page size. But there are all of these quick links and buttons, so it's almost more like using an app. You're clicking things instead of having to scroll, and there's back buttons to go to the table of contents, and you can jump to different sections. So really cool. We have a banner on our front page right now featuring the phone PDFs. If you want to just check it out, you can even get the Pugmire rulebook for free right now as a phone PDF. That's a really fun D&D 5e setting where you get to be doggos.
Yes, and I think there's an expansion where you can be cats as well.
Yes, Monarchies of Mao.
Yes.
Yeah. Really lovely. Thank you, Hannah, for throwing those links in chat for us. So I'm taking a look at Matthew's notes right now. And it's really interesting, his approach.
Yes, he seems to be brainstorming as he's going. So he didn't just pick one class. He wrote down a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And I
kind
like
of
it.
Taking those 5 minutes to use for planning, which is really quite cool. So, James, if you were doing this challenge, is there a class that really calls out to you for Trick-or-Treater?
So for Trick-or-Treater, I think a big thing that would call out to me would actually be the Rogue, because the Rogue is a tricky class, right? They have lots of skills and that kind of thing, but also because they take things. So I think off the top of my head, maybe like a rogue that specializes in pickpocketing or something like that.
That's such a good answer. I didn't have an answer. I was actually, as you were talking, I was like, I have to listen to James, but also I'm really scared he's gonna ask me my own question back.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you that back, but I will say, do you think there is a particular spell that is like good for trick-or-treating spellcasting subclass?
Ooh, I feel like disguise self, so you can be in
Yes.
different costumes,
Yeah.
would be really fun.
Yeah, and play tricks. Like it's a double good
Yeah.
one for that. Yeah,
Double
definitely.
tricks. TK says, yeah, the rogue can do traps, which are also tricks.
Ooh, yes.
Ooh,
that
the
is very
Willy Boo
true.
wants a trick-or-treat cantrip.
Oh, you know what I would do if it were a cantrip? I think I would make it like a 50% chance something good happens, so it's like a little bit better than a normal cantrip.
Yeah.
But then there's 50% something bad happens, so that sort of balances it out.
Oh, like a trick-or-treat for you.
Mhm,
That's really
mhm.
fun. I like,
Yeah.
I like Wild Mage Sorcerer is really fun because you never really know what's going to happen, and it could be extremely suboptimal for you, but it's just the randomness is fun.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
TK says trick or treat flavored like wild magic. Exactly. Hannah says you flip a chocolate coin. Yeah, I'd love
that's the treat part, of course.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from folks in chat what subclasses or what classes you think would make for a great trick-or-treater subclass.
Absolutely.
Let's jump over to Jessica's page, see what she's working on.
All right.
It seems like she has gone for a bardic subclass.
Good choice. A really good choice. I feel like I'm a bard fan. You know, you got two kinds of people in this world: those who love the bard and those who hate it. It feels like, and I am a big time lover of the bard. So I'm excited to see where this goes. And it really seems like she's already got her 3rd level features down and has moved on to level 6.
Oh my gosh, speeding through.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Nice.
And she knows what she's doing at 14 too. So it looks like maybe she outlined boom, 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 and then went from there. Subclasses are difficult for me. I'm primarily like an adventure designer and stuff tools for the dungeon master to use. So subclasses, I feel like whenever I design one for my blog or for the guild, I have my, all of my books open or a zillion tabs open or whatever it is. Do you do a lot of subclass design yourself?
Gosh, I think have I only done it for Xanathar's Guide to Everything Else? I think so. Yeah. But I know when I was designing that, it was very much kind of like looking at the other similar subclasses, and it always feels like they maybe have one of their features that is more combat related, one that's more like utility, because you don't necessarily want like all 3 features to be combat, and just make someone just only really strong at that. You kind of want a balance, I guess.
Yeah, and it's especially with something like a trick-or-treat subclass, I feel like as a player, I'm expecting there to be more things that I could use in social and exploration encounters as well. Yeah.
Let's see. Chat has some suggestions. Tormented by Gnomes. First of all, I love your name. Tormented by Gnomes says you could tie in the origins of Halloween with trick-or-treating as a way of emulating mischievous spirits. Maybe a Feywild tie-in, since Halloween was the time when the other world was very close. I love that flavor. That's super fun. Everyone is very impressed with how quickly Jessica is turning this out.
Yes.
TK says an artificer could have their companion collecting the candy. Cute.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Or right, like a homunculus or a familiar or something like that. That could be part of it. Is really cool. I thought about the trick-or-treaters from Nightmare Before Christmas when you brought this up, and I was trying to think like, do they have a class? What would their class be, right?
Oh, yeah. So someone in the chat just said something that actually reminded me, let me just say it. The Willy Boo says tangential, but I had a Sugar Rush barbarian in the works before the Fey barbarian happened. So that's really fun. But that also reminds me that for a one shot, I rolled a random character on D&D Beyond, and I got a drunken master monk, which isn't like the sort of thing I would ever pick for myself. So I decided to reflavor it as my little goblin monk was obsessed with candy, and she just wanted candy. And so her like drunken mastery was her being on a sugar high. So I feel like there's something there, maybe that could be fun.
Yes. That is a really cool idea to do like one of the smaller races like that, like a goblin or a kobold or a halfling, because they have that sort of childlike stature as well, which I think is great to fit in. And then, oh man, reflavoring the Drunken Master as a kid with a sugar high is the most incredible reflavoring I've heard since your reflavoring of the druid as someone who keeps building mechs instead of wild shape morphing. I love it.
I love that. I mean, I guess I don't really know a lot of what previous editions were like since I didn't play them, but I have heard a lot that 5e gives you that sort of flexibility and freedom to be able to reflavor stuff easily, which I'm glad, because that's one of my favorite things to do. All right, I'm spying on JB's design right now.
Yes, so am I.
I'm looking at I'm not trying not to read stuff too closely because I want him to explain it to us. But I see there's something called the opener.
Ooh.
You get a charisma persuasion check. I wonder if this is related to like when you open the door and you're trick-or-treating. And then there's costumer, kind of latching onto the disguise and costumes.
Yeah, and trickster, which is cool. So yeah, it looks like he's got a lot of cool things going on. It looks like rogue might be a popular choice here. So this is very interesting. Yeah. So that is one of the things that I like about D&D is playing Halloween themed games, Lisa. So like using one of these subclasses for one shot would be really cool. Do you have any favorite Halloween adventures that you like to play?
Goodness. I'd really like murder mystery themed things, which I think are well suited for Halloween. So, Adventurers League 4th season, which was in Barovia for the Curse of Strahd season, has a bunch of really fun adventures. I love Teo Sabadia's The Artifact, which I don't think it's a huge spoiler alert at this point, but the map of like the main part of the adventure is basically the Clue board game. And you go around and you're like trying to solve a mystery, and he's written it so that the murderer and the murder weapon can be different every time, because you can roll randomly. So that is super fun. And then also I feel like adventures just like Death House, where it's like spooky and atmospheric, and you're just exploring through a spooky place, are really fun. Do you have favorite Halloween friendly adventures?
So there's a couple of different things. I do like The Artifact a lot. I think that one's really good. I also like The Beast, which is an Alan Patrick Adventurers League adventure from the same season. I think that one is really good. And I like to run anything that sort of falls under that Halloween-y dark tab, and there's so much stuff that has come out in the last month, and it's pretty much all like on the top seller list. Happy Jack's Funhouse is something that just came out.
The cover for that is so scary. I'm really happy for the creators, but also really upset because I have to be on the website all day looking at that face.
Yes, yeah, it really is like a terrifying cover. So that's a good one. I really, I think you can take certain parts of the hardcovers too and make those some pretty great one-shot adventures. So, I think there are dungeons, for instance, in the latest hardcover release, Descent into Baldur's Gate, that you could pull right out of Avernus or Baldur's Gate and have a spooky one shot with. So there's a lot of options there, especially if you're hankering to play some Descent into Avernus, but maybe you're still playing Dragon Heist or Tomb of Annihilation or something.
Fun. I've jumped over and taken a peek back at Matthew's design, and I
Oh,
see
yeah.
he's ruled out some other classes he was considering. I find it interesting that he felt like the warlock was too obvious. I'm trying to think, what would a warlock trick-or-treater be?
I
Was
guess
your patron
because-
candy?
Yeah. Or your patron is someone who really wants to devour candy, right?
Like a
you're-
candy
you're-
dragon.
Yeah, you're getting all that candy to give to the candy dragon after this. Oh, I would love to see a candy dragon. It would actually be really cool to see a DM's Guild release that is Halloween themed, but it's all of the fun and fluffy parts of Halloween, right? So it's like the candy and the caramel apples and I guess sugar and stuff like that, which you could easily then turn into a holiday release for the winter holidays.
Oh yeah, that would be really sweet. I love all like the little fun, silly parts of Halloween. I did notice there was I'm like Gnarl, maybe Gnarl's Candy Emporium, or there's a candy supplement that was just released, which I feel like
awesome.
it's not Halloween themed, but it's all magical items that are candy, and it's like a really hefty supplement. There's there's full section, like page-long sections for all the different rarities of magic items. Thank you, TK. Gnarl's Candy Compendium.
Yes, and what's great about that, and also really any Halloween supplement, is you can really use them all year round. You know what I mean? Like horror is great at Halloween, but it's kind of always appropriate in D&D if that's what your group is into. I don't know. How do you feel about horror and spooky things, Lisa?
Well, I think it's no secret at this point that I love me some spooky things. It's funny, I can't watch scary movies. I'm a very easily terrified person. But I feel like in role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons, especially if your table has like a safety system in place and you've talked through your lines and veils, it's a place where I can feel that like excitement that I think people who like scary movies must enjoy. Like they like being scared, but I can still feel safe doing it. And I don't know, I just like the gothic dark flavor of scary things. I'm reading some more fun stuff in chat. Tormented by Gnomes says we're going to have every holiday town specced out by the end of this. Love it. I could only wish.
That would be great.
And then I saw the Willy Boo. I'm not seeing his message right now, but he definitely called me out. Oh, here it is. You shamed me, Will. Who is the patron of Halloween besides Skeleton Jack? You're right. That's on me.
It's true. It could be Skeleton Jack, right? Or perhaps, I don't know, the Demon King. Whoever knows what happened to the Demon King.
I don't really. I can't
knows?
talk about it, and I'm going to remember
one
that you
knows.
brought it up.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Skeleton Jack would be amazing. One of the fun things, right, is that when you create a Warlock patron, it's like this more generic overall force that a lot of different things could fit into. You could create, if you were going to do a candy patron, right, it could fit Skeleton Jack. It could also fit Santa Claus. It could fit the Easter Bunny. All these things that bring candy to people that are all sort of different in their flavor. Which is cool.
Yeah. Oh, DC says the truly evil warlock that has the gives fruit during Halloween patron.
Oh, the worst.
Oh my gosh, TK just said, what a Paul Hollywood move, James.
Wow, I think she's probably commenting to me about something you have done. I'm guessing. So she wants me to know, or I'm sorry, they want me to know that you have done this thing. So very Paul Hollywood.
Now everyone's just talking about crappy stuff that gets given out during Halloween. Toothbrushes, dental floss. It's funny because now as an adult, I'd be like, yeah. Especially if they were Halloween-themed toothbrushes. Yes, please.
Right. Ah, that's so cool. Yeah, and that goes right into, as long as we're doing holidays and mythical patrons, right? Why not a Tooth Fairy Warlock? Would probably love Halloween because all that sugar is going to make those kids' teeth fall out. So,
JV is celebrating because we got our tooth mention. Episode 2 had a lot of teeth in it. All right. Ooh, I'm like scrolling really quickly through JB's design right now, and I'm seeing Become the Monster as a feature. That
What?
just sounds really fun.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody has gotten so
Yeah.
much text written.
Candy
all of
dance?
These designs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Maybe the extra 5 minutes was too much. Maybe next time I subtract 5 minutes and they have 10 minutes to make a...
10 minutes for a
Don't say that.
subclass. That is a Paul Hollywood move if I have ever heard one.
That's fair. That accusation is fair. Ooh, I'm excited to hear about this costume party feature that has different little flavored things. You can be spooky, cute, or funny in the costume.
Yes. I
Very
love when
fun.
there's a choice within a subclass, right? You make multiple choices. That's so cool.
Yeah. All right. Ooh, I am on edge. Can you feel the tension? There's less than a minute left in this challenge.
I can. I feel like, if I may, some of our people are in for a trick and others are in for a treat.
Oh, it's truly feels like British Bake Off now. All right, I'm gonna call time. Time. All right. Let's see. JB is hands off the keyboard. Jessica still looks like she's thinking. No, I think she's... Oh, I can't tell. I'm going to make stuff red just in case. Red. Okay. All right.
Hello.
All right, everyone's got their headphones
please don't
back in.
accidentally delete this. So much.
No, I was like, I'm coming. I was just like making the wording nicer.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, good job, everybody. We peeked just a little bit at everyone's subclasses while you were designing, and everyone was just really impressed at how quickly you guys were turning out some really fun-looking features. As we're going through everything, chat, feel free to call out, I don't know, what you think should be on the rubric, or we can award everyone their own category. Like, I think last episode someone had most teeth. There was one that was like, I don't know, biggest tooth. So let's make sure every designer here leaves with some sort of fun, silly trophy.
Absolutely.
I don't have any teeth in this.
The teeth
Oh, wow,
are
I really
inside you all the time.
Oh, I mean, that's true, but also.
Generally true, yeah.
And James, as co-host, also feel free to chime in and ask questions. But we're going to
Excellent.
start off with Jessica, whose design I have pulled up. Jessica, walk through your process. How did you settle on Bard?
I know the Bardic subclass really well. It was the first one that I ever wrote. I usually play a Bard or a Druid. And I was basically like, I think they get their special stuff at 3, 6, and 14. I'm pretty sure. So I'm just going to go. And I was like, maybe there's one at 10. And I looked for a second. I was like, no, that's barbarians, because I just did a barbarian class. And I was like, fuck it, I don't have time for that anyway. So we're doing a Bard. And then I was like, because, you know, trick-or-treaters are like charismatic, and we used to like go sing and do... I was a choir kid, so we would be like, well, we get more candy if we sing for you. How about if we do a show choir dance for you?
That's the most show kid thing ever. Also really cute. It's like caroling, but Halloween.
Yeah, we caroled for money too. So that is the origin of the candy dance that you get at level 3. Because I was like, doesn't everybody do that? So do I read it aloud or what?
Yeah, you can kind of walk us through and explain things, or even read things directly if you'd like.
Okay, so I figured the idea was basically like you're going to need to disguise yourself if you're trick-or-treating. And you also want to grab as much candy as you can. So I figured like sleight of hand and intimidation. At first I had performance on there, but I took it away because later on I made a thing where you get scary. And then I was like, oh, what if you already have those things? So I added a thing that was like, if you already have them, you can pick from these things. Then I added the candy dance. And if you succeed, they give you candy or money, and if you don't, they give you toothpaste or like lint, just whatever they have. And if you keep dancing for them when they've already like passed the save against you, they turn hostile and attack you because you're just annoying them. At level 6, you basically get what hags have, which is the ability to look like anybody, but only as long as they're not touching you. And you could do it with just your disguise kit that you got at level 3. If you pump it up with minor illusion, you can even appear to be like a magical creature. Like you can look like a banshee if that's what you want to do. But again, only against with it doesn't hold up to physical touch because it is just a disguise.
Mm-hmm.
And then by level 14, we're bringing in the trick part of Trick or Treat. So you can go to a group of people and just terrify them. So you can frighten a group of people equal to your charisma bonus. They have to do a wisdom save against you or take psychic damage and get stunned. And then they're fine when you're not there anymore, but you can only do that once per rest. But by level 14 as a bard, you're probably not really resting that much anymore. So you can just be like stunning everybody in the party with, terror and do some crowd control that way.
Nice.
So you said that you were a choir kid here, and that has a lot to do with sort of your trick-or-treating experiences there. Did you draw on that for your trick as well here at the end?
So I actually wasn't allowed to celebrate Halloween as a kid. I first went trick-or-treating when I was 14. So that was when I was kind of like, screw it, I could do what I want. So a lot of my trick stuff was more like in college, scaring people, being part of haunted houses and stuff like that. So it's more like that kind of thing. And now as an old person, we do a lot of like scary movies, and one of my friends makes her house into a haunted house every year.
Nice. I love this.
Fun. So you'd mentioned that Bard was the first class that you designed for. How was your process and experience designing this trick-or-treater class in 20 minutes? The same and different from leisurely designing the College of Caterwauling?
For the College of Caterwauling, it was more like, what are the most annoying things that my cat does? And how would a bard do them? So that was sort of where that came from. And definitely had a lot of playtesting for the College of Caterwauling. This was me desperately panicking and being like, okay, I need things at this level. What will work for this level and not be ridiculous? And then at the end, I was like, oh no, this is supposed to be like funny. Oh, it's not. Oh, well.
That's not funny either. No worries.
So, yeah, just trying to get something out that made some semblance of sense other than like a grand vision.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious what normally your next step would be after kind of throwing down some ideas for features.
So after I throw down ideas for features, I tend to write it out, as you saw me doing, trying to like make the sentences make sense in D&D style guide appropriateness. And then I actually make 2 NPCs. So one who's like low level, like a 5th level-ish or 6th level, whenever they get the second ability, and then one who's like one above getting the top level. So for this, it would be like a level 15th bard, and then just seeing like, is this super overpowered? How often are they going to use their abilities? And then I actually send it off to Kat Evans and beg her to read over it and see if it makes sense and if the math for my NPCs is at all correct, because
it's always good having someone else look at your work. Especially you mentioned like trying to figure out how to structure sentences and language so that the features make sense. Having someone else read it who doesn't know what you already had in mind is really, really useful.
I have one follow-up question, Jessica. Do you watch the Great British Baking Show?
I don't.
Oh, all right. Well, hopefully Matthew or JB do, because they'll need to tell us which one of us is Paul Hollywood. But this was really, really cool. I do one serious design question for you. Classes are I think subclasses are one of the hardest things to design, and I applaud you because this is amazing. What do you do as far as like play testing goes, or checking for balance? How do you make sure your class isn't like the most awesome class that's ever been created? Because you've created a lot that are very balanced.
Oh, thank you. Right now I'm pretty lucky. Every Sunday I run a stream called Princesses Save Dragons. So I have a good crop of princesses to test NPC subclasses on. So I just tested a bunch of Tabaxi barbarians on them, learned that they were way too overpowered and reduced them. I came up with the College of Caterwauling right before Uncaged Live. So they actually let me play a College of Caterwauling bard, so that was kind of my test there.
Nice.
Yeah, and some of my friends will, play test them for free copies, which is always nice.
It's pretty cool. Great way for people to witness playtesting live as well. So that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Jessica, thank you for sharing your trick-or-treater bard with us. We're going to hop over to Matthew's design. Matthew, walk us through your process.
Get ready for some bullet points, everybody.
Yes.
So yeah, and this is actually I started by just kind of like spitballing which class I thought would be a good base here, and I'm kind of sad because my first one here was a barbarian that rages out when they don't get the right type of candy. And I kind of wish I had explored that, but my brain was really stuck on rogue, because we were talking about costumes and we were talking about affecting people in that kind of way. And so that just stuck, and I didn't want to fight my brain in 20 minutes. That fighting my brain is not a thing I need to do, period, but trying to do it in 20 minutes is not great. So I stuck with rogue. Then I started doing some touchstones. Just these are things I wanted to accomplish. This is like my checklist that I needed to get done. Then I went into, there's only a couple bullets here, but this is how I also write the subclass guides that I do, is I look at other subclasses and I say, what are the commonalities? So at third level, they all have two subclass abilities. One of them is generally some kind of bonus proficiencies and things like that. So I always look for structure. Jessica also mentioned writing things in the kind of style guide. There is a way that D&D stuff is written that needs to be that way to make the game make sense. There are specifics that, while if you're just reading over them, they might just seem like words. There are very specific things that happen here. I didn't get a chance to write those, but I would like to say that I do that also. That is a huge pass. I love actually doing that. I like the style guide of D&D, and in my guides there is also I pay attention to that. The one you featured for the paladins are an extremely structured subclass.
Really?
Oh yeah, virtually every official subclass has 50% of the same exact words. It is very structured. If you ever want to create cut your teeth on a subclass, paladin is a great place to start because they are very structured. So anyway, so my trick-or-treater, I gave him proficiency in the disguise kit and performance skill. That sounds pretty straightforward. I love seeing classes or subclasses that have bonus proficiencies because they add a lot of power and a lot of potency and a lot of theme, and they're really easy to just throw in here. And then the other third level is kind of what I usually refer to as a core ability or a base ability. So this is Costume Party. When using a disguise kit, you choose one of these three options, and then based on that choice, you get an ability to use later, as long as you're still wearing that costume. So again, there's a lot more words that need to be here to make this work, but that's the general thought here. So you can choose spooky, cute, or funny. Spooky allows you basically whenever somebody attacks you, they have to make a wisdom saving throw, or they are frightened of you. Cute is you can choose a target, they make a wisdom save, otherwise they become charmed against you. And then funny, you can choose a target, they make a wisdom saving throw, and if they fail, they become overcome with laughter and become incapacitated.
Wow.
And then these are all, again, there's like a structure of words that say like how you calculate the DC, which I like doing, 10 plus something. So it scales. This is your performance bonus. So as long as you're pumping things into performance bonus, and as long as you're, leveling up your general proficiency bonus, then this goes up. And then people who save are unaffected. So you can only, it just kind of has a built-in limit to it. So you don't actually have to do too much in the way of like once per short rest or anything like that. There's just kind of like, it's based on targets, less than anything else. So that's costumes. And then next one at 9th is trick or treat. So this was kind of like one of my touchstones was like the flip flop of trick or treat. So this goes both ways. When you fail a charisma check, a treat, you can use a bonus action to make a weapon attack, a trick. And similarly, when you miss with a weapon attack, you can use a bonus action to make a charisma check. Has to be the same target both ways. You can only do it once per short rest. So that's trick or treat. Costume change, 13th level. You can choose 2 of the costume choice options from level 3, one to be under the other. And you can use a bonus action to take off the costume and reveal a second one. So it's basically kind of like preloading this so you don't have to use actions to take them on and take them off. So it's a little bit of a boost in potency here without having to like craft a whole new abilities. This is also a great way to load if you're writing your own subclass and you don't want to write 4 completely net new things. And a lot of official subclasses do this. There's stuff that boosts your other stuff. So this is a great way to like add value to your class without having to create net new stuff.
Yeah.
And then 17th, I kind of ran out of time here. So I was trying to make this a little more flavorful, but I ended up basically just saying at 17th level, you can use the 9th level feature 3 times instead of 1.
Okay.
So that's you can use the trick or treat a little bit more, which again is not super flavorful, but again, it's a good way to go back and, figure out what's working really well about the class. Like you mentioned earlier, what are people actually going to use, or Jessica mentioned it, what are people actually going to use? And then focus on that. Like, throwing in a brand new thing here that no one's going to use isn't actually adding value, even though it's new and unique. So if it's about trick-or-treating, focus on the trick-or-treating.
Yeah, I've noticed that both for yours and also Jessica's, you all like gave someone something with their feature at the beginning, but then the other features build on that, which is like kind of a really nice focus. And then you also understand like what your subclass is about. Like the theme is really tight.
Yeah.
I also really like that as a bonus action, you can reveal the second costume. So it's like they have tearaway costumes.
Right.
And I feel like that's,
Like
that
a
can
quick
just
change artist.
like, that's just like really, really, that I feel like that will make for some really fun moments at the table.
Yeah.
I absolutely pictured that like somebody with tearaway basketball pants, just tearing them off and having a different costume on underneath.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like the trick or treat 9th level ability, and I'm wondering if there's any situation that you're thinking of in particular where someone like I love the idea of, oh, I failed this charisma check, I guess we're going into combat,
Right.
But then also the idea, the flip-flop of that is super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you have like a narrative example of that.
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely prefer, like if it was up to me to run a game or be in a game the way I wanted to, I always prefer non-combat's always more interesting to me than combat. So this I thought was like an interesting way. Sorry, let me step back. I like non-combat, but the game is very much centered around the mechanics of combat. So I'm always trying to find ways to inject non-combat, but in the structure and flow of combat. So this character has a choice that they could fly out into non-combat area without disrupting the flow of the game. It's still limited by actions and bonus actions. It's still done as a trigger to something else that happens in combat. So what I'm imagining is like, this is the really cocky rogue in your fantasy novels who talks a big talk and then he gets into some actual trouble and he's just like, whoa, I was kidding. Sorry, I didn't mean that. And he tries to talk, he throws the dagger and it misses and he's just like, okay, now I got to talk my way out of this.
Yes.
So yeah, this is some kind of, and I left it open. It just says charisma check for right now. So this could be a performance, it could be a persuasion, it could be a deception. It's just like, oh, I wasn't actually throwing that at you. I was throwing it at the person behind you. I was trying to save you. So like there's just a lot of, again, ways to inject a little bit of, narrative into a combat flow or vice versa, and see how that goes. The first part of this is the obvious rogue kicking off combat maneuver, which I'm sure everybody has been a part of at some point.
It's great. It's great.
That's lovely. Do you have any last questions for Matthew, James?
Do you watch the Great British Bake Off?
I have watched it. It has been a while.
So you watched the BBC version, which is the superior version. Got it. So the question would be, which one of us do you think is Paul Hollywood, and which one of us is Mary Berry?
See, I feel like we're throwing around Paul Hollywood like it's a bad thing, but like I quite like a Paul Hollywood.
The surprise was you were Paul Hollywood all the time.
Yes. That is the most correct answer, and also the most political answer I can give is to say I'm Paul Hollywood, and now nobody has their feelings hurt.
Excellent. I'm good with questions now.
Okay. All right. Very good. We shall move along to JB, who I think from his reaction also put together a lovely rogue for us.
I did. So I was torn between doing either a bard or a rogue, so we're all kind of in the same headspace. But I wanted to manipulate charisma checks and charisma persuasion checks and stuff like that a lot, and bards already do that, so I decided to go with the rogue instead.
Okay, cool.
Kind of the same way, like you were saying earlier, Matthew, about the paladin being structured so well. They also take 3 ability scores for the entire class, right? You need the strength or the dexterity, you need the constitution, and you need the wisdom or the charisma or whatever you're built for, right? Rogues usually only need dexterity or strength and constitution if they kind of want to, because they get so many other bonuses. So building the subclass to utilize another ability score is kind of what I wanted to do here. And making it a trick or treat kind of monster thing because I'm still in like the Halloween mode seemed like it would work. I'm not sure if it's perfected, obviously. In this first paragraph, we're just going to ignore that. The opener. I'm not proud of the first paragraph. I didn't have time. That was at the end. So the idea is the opener, when you take this subclass at 3rd level, you gain this ability to kind of speak with people like a trick-or-treater would do. Knock on the door. Even if it's the middle of December and you open it, someone's dressed in a costume and like, trick or treat. You're like, what? You're not actively mad at them. You're just a little confused. So the idea is that you can utilize your cunning action to make a charisma persuasion check at advantage against one humanoid that you or they are unfamiliar with. So the first time you're meeting somebody, you can make this quick charisma persuasion and kind of get them on the back foot. You might be trying to sneak past a guard and be like, hey, which way to the bathroom? Or like taken aback. It's right over there, and they let you in without even thinking about it. And if they are beating you in that contest, if they see through your little facade and become hostile towards you, it gives you the opportunity to run away and just get out of there before they can actually hurt you. And I had that idea of when you knock on the door and someone opens it and you're kind of afraid of them and you leave without even bothering asking trick or treat. That's what I went for with this. But the bigger part is that at 3rd level, you gain the ability to make a costume that hides your identity in an unusual way. The costume takes 50 gold pieces and 40 hours to make. So it's reminiscent of the assassin's ability to create a new identity for the rogue. And while wearing it, creatures take a -10 penalty, I'll explain that in a second, to wisdom insight and wisdom persuasion checks made to determine your identity while wearing the costume. I struggled here trying to think, should I give them disadvantage because it's already built into 5e so well and it's utilized everywhere. But for some reason, the idea that this costume would make it more difficult for them at their best to see through it stuck out better to me. And I don't think that there are enough negative modifiers built into the 5e subclasses in this way, mainly because when they start stacking, it gets super annoying. So the idea that you can get disadvantage on this and still get a benefit from it stood out to me. The costumes can have any appearance as you wish, but cannot alter your height more than a foot. So I'm imagining this rogue dressed as a Grick this whole time. This big kind of slug thing with tentacles, like some cosplayer going to Comic-Con dressed as something really cool. And you get advantage on deception checks to pass as that creature. Again, just kind of hammering home that this costume is something you build and you work on as the class progresses. Coming around level 9th, I wanted to build up the rogue ability outside of the costume here. It's kind of the midway point. Most 9th level abilities and 6th level abilities are okay, but not fantastic. And I think that that's kind of a wise design decision because so many spells are getting really powerful at this point. So many attacks are getting more and more strong. So basically you have advantage on initiative rolls, which all bards love, or all rogues love. And in addition, when you use your action to dash, disengage, dodge, or use a device, you can make a single melee attack against a creature within range. What I'm setting this up to do is let the bard use their cunning action to do anything they want, use their action to do something that will keep them alive, and get some kind of payment for using that other, more interesting action than just damage. Creatures have disadvantage on wisdom perception checks made to discover traps that you have set. Here is where the tricks comes in a little bit more. Such as ball bearings, caltrops, or tripwires. You set such traps in half the normal time. So this is the egging people's house, throwing toilet paper in the trees, setting up little tripwires in the hallway to trip your siblings, crazy stuff like that. And it's kind of at this point that I was a little mixed feeling, like, am I using this costume enough? Am I getting enough out of the costume at 3rd level to make it worth it? And I think that at 13th and 17th, I really pulled the trigger on making that more interesting. So at 13th level, you've perfected your disguise. You have advantage on charisma checks while wearing your costume. In addition, creatures that share a type with that of your costume, such as a dragon or aberration, again, I'm thinking Grick, are not hostile towards you until you or a creature friendly to you damages them. Humanoids assume your costume is your natural form until shown otherwise.
Ooh.
So this sets up kind of the classic rogue parody of pretending to be a barrel or wanting to dress up like a dog or be the horse that's pulling the cart. They're always doing crazy stuff like that. So this enables that kind of fun mentality of, I am a Greek, you know, traveling along with the party. And at 17th is the capstone ability of the subclass. It basically gives you access to one feature that the creature that you're taking the form of has. So you can use the stone camouflage to hide in rocky terrain like a Grick does, or you can use their tentacles attack with your costume. The whole time it's using your ability scores, so it's kind of inherently not overly powerful. Even if you take something from like a Grimlock and you have advantage on perception checks made to hear and smell, that's not really going to pay more dividends than having advantage on perception checks in general, right? But the idea that you're losing yourself to this monstrous creature that you're pretending to be needed to be addressed. So I thought that every time when you use such a feature, you take damage equal to the CR of the monster that you're impersonating. That way, the stronger the ability for these high CR creatures, the more apt you are to think, yes, I am a Grick, and take 7 points of psychic damage. And if it drops you to 0 hit points, when you're brought back, you have a long-term madness, as seen on the madness in chapter 8 of the
Oh my goodness. I love the flavor and general concept of this class. Like, you're becoming closer. You're like, it starts out as like fun, cute costumes, and like more and more you're becoming the monsters themselves. And I think I saw someone in chat say that this is the cosplay subclass,
Yes.
Which they're really
That's
excited
what I was
about.
leaning into, yes.
Yeah.
Cosplay people need more representation.
I also see folks in chat who really like the idea of like having that drawback to try to, because that's a really potentially powerful thing to give people access to do. And this seems like definitely the sort of subclass where you'd probably want to play test it and have folks who are like looking to almost break the subclass try their darndest. But the idea of having some sort of drawback to kind of temper what they try to do is a really good idea.
I often find myself a lot like what Jessica said is I'll make a subclass fairly powerful and then play test it and cut things away. It's a lot easier to kind of cut things away than to rebalance the whole subclass to make it more powerful later on, in my experience at least.
Since we're coming up on time, and in fact it is noon now, and I know Pelham and Greg are somewhere looking at a screen watching me. Hello. James, what is one quick question you have for JB?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would love to know is why you chose a rogue for this particular build of like you're becoming a monster. Rogue is not the first thing I would think of, but I think it works really, really well.
Action economy mostly, because rogues have a lot of extra actions they're usually not using in combat, and they feel kind of cheated if they don't get everything they want out of it. If you're not using that cunning action to do something, why have the cunning action? So having a class that can kind of utilize as many of those actions in one combat as possible and have all of those different abilities kind of makes them feel a little bit stronger, a little bit better about themselves.
Love it.
Wonderful. So that has been another episode of Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash Subclass Edition. Please go check out and follow our wonderful contestants. Their names and Twitter handles are above their heads, below mine, but above theirs. Follow them. If you want to see one of them come back next month, go to @DMS_guild. And in the next few minutes, I will get a poll up so everyone can vote for one of these lovely designers to come back and challenge 2 new D&D authors in the arena. In the meantime, I have been Lysa Penrose. Thank you, James, for joining me as co-host. And everyone stick around because Dragon Talk is coming up next. And the lovely Kiana Shaw will be chatting with Greg Tito and Shelley Moo about safety tools and a whole bunch else. Very excited. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
James is Paul Hollywood.